chat, we're live right
passion
now.
or even anger behind our words.
I went live
If there
earlier
isn't,
than what
then
I
why would
said I
anyone take
would,
us seriously?
but
Because it's like we
it's
don't
kind of
even
late,
take
and I'm
ourselves
trying to get this
seriously.
done with.
We are
Gotta
not the
go do
ones.
some
The
things with the
pro-abortion
wife, so
side,
I was like, you know
they're
what?
the
Let me
ones who
just
have to
knock this
cover
out now.
everything they say in euphemism.
I'm gonna leave this
They have to be
plane
very
for a little
careful about
bit.
every word
The
they choose.
Conservative
And euphemisms
Political
constantly
Action
change.
Conference in
Because
2025. So
they
this has been going for a little
talk
while.
simply
Elon Musk
and
was actually
clearly about
talking
what
on
the
here,
thing
but he's
is.
off now.
And we
I'll
win the
probably
argument,
react to some of that tomorrow.
simply by being clear about
But
it.
I'm gonna leave this going so YouTube doesn't copyright me. I'm gonna run, use the head real quick, and then I'll be back.
To intentionally kill innocent human children.
Right,
That's
I'll
it.
be back, chat.
And I defy any pro-abortion person, any so-called pro-choice person, to engage with that. Are you saying that there are times when it is actually okay to intentionally kill an innocent human child? And that's what they don't want to engage with. And as long as we're honest about it, then we win the argument.
And this is everything now. What you're talking about is everything, having the argument openly, because the law is not going to stop it. It's not going to be able to stop it with the technologies, with the medications. It'll still be going on unless people see, unless they open their eyes and see what they're doing. It's the only way. There are always going to be murderers. There are always going to be people who kill people. But at least we can make it apparent to people that if you're a good person, you don't do it. And that's an argument we can win, and we have to win. We have to win it now.
Hi, my name is Erin. I'm a college student. College is woke now. So what would you say to me
Chat, what's up,
as
chat?
kind of representing?
Say what's up, say where you watching from.
I couldn't quite hear it.
I didn't hear where you said.
Yeah.
Oh,
You have a beautiful mellifluous voice.
I meant college is woke, and I want to pursue what I love just like you guys do. What do you do when you have that thought in your head? It's like, pause. I need to keep doing what I love to do.
Well, I think that I'm very famously anti-college. I think that most people should not go to college. Thank you. I think that, if you want to be a heart surgeon, I think there's a strong case that you should go to college.
Sure, a heart
But
surgeon.
I
would
think
say
most
so.
people who are getting, bachelors of fine arts should not be getting them. And you might say that in a better world than this, those
A
degrees
conservative
are
that's
useful to
actually
society.
anti-college.
Back when we taught
I
things
like
like
it.
the Western canon, back when we taught things like philosophy, perhaps a liberal arts degree actually did prepare, people who aren't going to go into very specialized fields.
All right, guys, I just wanted to play that a little bit as filler because every time I play music in the beginning, YouTube always dings me for it. It's cool. I'm used to it. I know how the copyright works, but it could get a little bit annoying. So we got a lot to talk about today. Everything that we're talking about today is pretty recent. I would say the oldest thing we're at is about 23 hours ago, so that's less than a day. We're gonna dig into Elon Musk's first claim. So Elon's been making a claim that people who are 150 years old are actually getting Social Security benefits, which I thought was hilarious. But then we have so many Democrats and leftists saying, no, we don't want Elon to look into those, right? But then he's finding out that 150-year-olds are collecting Social Security. Kash Patel actually got confirmed today. So after all the hell they put him through, he actually made it through the Senate, and he's actually been confirmed to be the next FBI director. So we're gonna take a look at some of that. Donald Trump at the White House today, there was a celebration. It was actually, I believe it was a gala / reception that President Trump put on, and he actually did it for Black History Month. So I thought that was awesome. One, I wanted to cover it because I'm like, okay, a lot of people who look like me, mainly my friend group, but other people I know, they weren't in support of President Trump winning the presidency. You know, he's racist, he doesn't like black people, da-da-da. They obviously didn't do their research because historically that's disproven. But nonetheless, in the comments, I saw a lot of like, hey, I thought he whacked DEI, so he must have weaved back on it. And I just thought that was interesting. He didn't weave back on anything. He did whack a lot of DEI stuff. But I think he reacted to Black History Month and threw a celebration simply because he just wanted to do it. And then long-standing, if not the longest-standing senator, Mitch McConnell, Republican, out of, where is Mitch McConnell? Is he in Texas or is he in Kansas? Let me double check. I think he's in Kansas. Chat, you know where Mitch McConnell's at? I'm just being lazy, but I can literally just look it up. Pledge allegiance to Akbar. All right. We have fun with that. Kentucky. Okay. So yeah, longest standing. He is actually one of the longest standing. He's actually turning 83. If his birthday's not today, I think it's tomorrow. But longest standing Senator Mitch McConnell, who actually announced his retirement. So he said that he's not going to be running for a Senate next year in 2026. So we're going to go over all the things, guys, all the things, and we're going to start out with CBS News. So, with that being said, welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Karen Smith. Call me Q, and we are on the corner. We're on the corner. So, Elon Musk's claim of people 150 years old receiving Social Security benefits. I thought this was astounding. Again, I say, a lot of people have been having such an uproar about Doge, but when we're finding things like people who are 150 collecting Social Security, I would say we have a problem, to say the least, right? Because we don't have a living individual in the United States that's 150 years old, which means, you guessed it, family members are collecting their dead family members' money, and they have been doing it. So let's jump right in and see what Elon has to say about this.
Elon Musk has recently made several claims that 150-year-olds are receiving Social Security benefits. Since those records are private, it's not possible to independently verify his claims, but the CBS News Confirmed team did some digging, as they do. Let's bring in CBS News Confirmed executive editor Rona Tarrant for more. So Rona, what was your team able to find here?
So as he said, Elon Musk did not provide evidence that 150-year-olds were receiving Social Security payments. So the best we had was the Office of the Inspector General. Now, good news for people who don't know this, the Social Security Administration actually has its own Inspector General, whose whole job it is to go through its records and see if there's fraud, waste, abuse. So first off, is there fraud, waste, and abuse in the agency? Yes, they did a report basically looking at 2015 to 2022, I should say. They looked at all of the payments and they found that less than 1% were overpayments. So this was payments to people who got more money than they should have gotten. So not a huge amount percentage-wise, but still $72 billion, people can argue.
Dude, I thought this was hilarious. This was one comment that the comments went crazy over. They were like, these people are acting like $72 billion isn't a lot of money. Yeah, well, when leftists and liberals and Democrats are used to tossing in and throwing this money to and fro, it doesn't seem like a lot. But what it says here is that 2024 Social Security Administration audit, improper payments made, about a little less than 72 billion between 2015 to 2022. Source: Social Security Administration. The Daily Report. Elon Musk makes several claims that people over 100 years old receiving Social Security benefits. So yeah, I thought that was insane that they literally treated like, it's not a big deal, but these are the years where people received improper payments, and I'm like, it's $72 billion, and it's not a big deal. Okay.
The other thing was, how many people can we see in the system that are over, 100 years old or 150 years old? Now, we couldn't find any evidence of payments to 150-year-olds from these reports.
Okay.
There were about 19 million people back around 2023 who were born in 1920 or before who didn't have death records in the system, so they just weren't updated for whatever reason. Now, 44,000 of them were still receiving payments. But there was no evidence given that any of them were 150 years old. Now, crucially, 150 years old.
Dude, this number is crazy. People born in or before 1920, 18.9 million of them. And she said 44,000 of them were still receiving Social Security payments in 2023. Yeah, 2023 Inspector General report on improper Social Security payments. I mean, honestly, so let's talk, if we look at the numbers, 44,000 compared to 18.9 million is minuscule. I will say that. But when we look at the broader view, and from 2015 to 2022, it was 72 billion. I think that is that's heinous. That's crazy. It was only 144,000 of them out of 18.9, but 72 billion. That's a hard number to hear.
150 years old. Now, crucially, there is an automatic system within the Social Security Administration. They started bringing this in a few years ago, When you reach 115 years old, it cuts off your payments.
What could Elon Musk and President Trump be referring to here?
So this is really interesting. Elon Musk posted a screenshot of a database over the weekend, and people have had a lot of fun trying to figure out what this database could be. Now, this database claims to show evidence of people over 150 years old receiving payments. Now, there are two theories. We spoke to some experts, and there are two theories that seem to be the most plausible. One is, it's possible, we don't know what databases Doge actually has access to. So it's possible what he was looking at was a database of everyone who's ever been issued a social security number. So that wouldn't mean that they're receiving payments, it's just that they received a social security number and their death record was never put in. Another one, which is a little bit more wonky, but it also seems to be a little bit plausible, is that the Social Security Administration uses a very old programming code called COBOL. And essentially, there are a lot of people in the system who put in their information before any of these digital records. So their birth date isn't actually in the system. So if this old programming language doesn't have your birth date, it defaults your birthday to 1875, which would make you 150 years old this year. So that is one possible explanation. We have said we have reached out to the White House and the Social Security Administration for any kind of evidence of this, and so far they haven't given it to us.
What is this?
Okay, so Rona makes the point that we don't know for sure what records or system Doge has access to. So she's saying one thing that could be plausible is that Elon could be looking at something, perhaps it's rather old or not updated, and he could just be looking at everyone who's ever received a Social Security payment, right? So he might even see people who are, in fact, 100, 150, 140, 150 years old, right? And then she's also saying it could be an old programming issue that they've been using, one called COBOL. It's an old one. And she says that he could just be looking at people who they started putting in their information really before the digital era. So their birthday wouldn't be in the system, and this old system would default their birthday to the year of 1875, which this year would make them 150 years old. So basically, she's trying to say that there is no true evidence that we see people who are 150 years old currently getting Social Security benefits, but more like this could be a system error. I think that's what they're alluding to.
Social Security Administration doing a crackdown on fraud?
So they work a lot with local governments. They cross-check their databases. As I said, there's also an Office of the Inspector General whose whole job it is to go through their payments and make sure that they're updated. They've also brought in new systems, for example, that system of cutting off payments at 115. Also, if you reach over a certain age, now I don't know what age that is, but they start checking if people are still using their Medicaid benefits. So this would
So she's at 115.
give some indication as well.
Rona Tarrant, thank you.
So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to take a look at that because, of course, media will take it, spin it how they want to spin it, and say, "Oh my God, these are the things that we're seeing." But in all actuality, Doge has found some pretty credible things thus far. There have been judges, there have been Democrats, there have been people in the Senate, a part of the Democratic Party, who have not been happy with the things that Doge has found or that the access Elon has been given, mainly from the judge that we spoke about yesterday, who granted Elon access to public systems that many left-leaning Americans were very afraid of. And he now has that access. But again, to what Rona was saying, we don't know to exactly what systems he has that access. So it's not totally accurate that 150 years old are getting paid currently, but we do know that it wasn't updated, and at least 44,000 of them did receive payments in 2023, which left the United States at a deficit of $72 billion. I love the play on words and how, she says not too much, but enough to be considered. I mean, 72 billion, I would say that. So moving on, breaking news, Kash Patel confirmed by Senate as FBI director. If any of you guys have watched his Senate hearing, then Kash Patel has literally been through hell. It's been a hard ride for him. I had a lot of empathy for the guy. I watched a couple of his Senate hearings live, and I mean, those Democrats, they really tried to come for him. They did not want this man to win. I do not know what their deal is with him, other than the fact that this administration is digging in lots of areas where I think many people are unhappy about. Nonetheless, he made it through the Senate and he was confirmed today, and I am happy about that. But if you go on YouTube right now as I speak and you type in Kash Patel live confirmation, you'll actually see the Democrats slaughtering him and saying all the reasons why they did not want him to get this vote before you actually see the confirmation. So we're going to react to a couple minutes of it. This is about a 12-minute clip. I'm not going to react to this whole thing. I'll probably stop about 8 minutes in. So let's just see what's going on here and see if they'll show his swearing in part. I think they might, but if not, I'll make sure I find a clip that covers it tomorrow.
Been listening here on the Senate floor as senators continue to put their votes into motion right now. I am still joined by my colleague Andrew Kraft, who has been following this and other Senate confirmations that have been happening on the floor. Andrew, you got some news here from within the floor.
Yeah. So before Andrew Kraft starts to speak, I want to make an important point. For Kash Patel's confirmation, one person who was a POI, let's say, a person of interest, was Senator Mitch McConnell. Senator Mitch McConnell, everyone kind of had his eye on him. He's one longest standing senator. He's from Kentucky. But he has actually shot down almost every cabinet member that President Trump has put forward. He's actually said a nay to their vote. So Mitch McConnell voted against and not for Pete Hegseth. He voted against Tulsi Gabbard, and he also voted against RFK Jr. The funny thing about it is that Andrew Kraft's going to talk about it right here in a little bit, but he actually did vote a confirmation vote for Kash Patel. And I thought that that was interesting. It's also pretty synonymous with the fact that he also mentioned that he will not be running for elections next year. So these guys are going to kind of talk about it a little bit. But they did allude to, you know, how is it going to work out for Mitch McConnell next year when he's up for re-election and he's pretty much shot down all of Trump's cabinet members except Kash Patel. So he confirms Kash Patel. He says yay to Kash Patel, and then he turns around and he's like, by the way, I'm not actually running next year for Senate again. So I thought it was very interesting. I had a couple of friends reach out to me who also are into politics or do reactions, and they were saying, you know, what do you think is the deal with Mitch McConnell giving Kash Patel the okay? And I said with him leaving, now knowing he's leaving the Senate, I'm like, he's probably done, dude. He's probably done with the trash that's happening in the government. He knows that the FBI is corrupt and that they were corrupt. I don't know who in America doesn't know that after we watched President Trump's first assassination attempt. Like, literally, if you go back and watch the FBI director's hearing at the time, who was the FBI director? It was a lady at the time. I can't remember her name. She did horribly during her Senate hearing, and I knew she was going to lose her job. She was completely not transparent with the Senate. You had people like Marjorie Greene and all, I mean, they were all coming for her. So I was like, this lady's not going to be here long. So I think the reason why Mitch McConnell gave Kash Patel the okay is because he's out the door and he's like, listen, all of this crooked stuff that's happening, I'm tired of it. Like, I want it to be done with, you know? So I think that he actually chose a more courageous route by saying yes to Kash Patel versus everybody else.
Yeah, so Mike, I had just said all eyes will be on McConnell. So McConnell just voted yes
chat. Hit the like
on
button.
the
Say what's up.
confirmation. Now, there were two Republican no's, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine here. And we saw Murkowski and Collins also vote no against the Hegseth confirmation. And that was somewhat to be expected. Collins had told us before the vote took place that she would be voting no. So I was just kind of bringing up, Mike, some of the blowback or supposed blowback that some of these Republican senators might face when they're up for re-election. Like I said, Collins will be up for re-election in 2026. It remains to be seen if there will be any electoral consequences, whether or not some of the Republican Party might support primary efforts, say, against her. And that was also somewhat of the concern with...
I don't know if you guys can see the vote right here, but this is the vote for Kash Patel. So it was a 51-49. So it was pretty close. 51 said yeah, and 49 said nay. So that wasn't surprising to me. We know that right now the Republicans had the House. So I was pretty sure he would get confirmed. But it's just so nasty how close he came. Like, look at these Democrats, 49. And I'm like, for what reason? Like, you watched the last FBI director just be total not transparent and just not a great director, just totally corrupt. And then you see a guy like Kash Patel, pretty upstanding, hasn't had anything happen in the past. One of the very few cabinet members that Trump put up that you didn't hear much of an uproar from the people. You heard it from the Democratic side, definitely, and from the far leftists, but you didn't hear a lot from the people as far as Kash Patel. You have people saying, "Oh, Tulsi Gabbard works for Russia," and I think that's just an asinine thing to say because of the way she served her country. You have people complaining about RFK because of how much he's going to change like food and the diet and certain things with the health department, and a lot of women did not like Pete Hegseth. Like there were a lot of this. I can say there were some Republican women and there were some women on the Democrat side that like when Pete Hegseth's name came up, it was like, oh no, it was almost as bad as God. Who was the other guy, Chad? Who was the other guy who Trump wanted to make, I think, Attorney General, and like everybody like lost their mind because he did like some sex trafficking. Dude, why can't I remember this guy's name? Let me see. Is it important? But my OCD's gonna kick in. Chat. You guys know his name? I don't know his name. I can't think of it right now. Oh God. I can't think of his name. Matt Gaetz. Yeah, Matt Gaetz. That was his name. His first name came to me. Yep, that's him. I know his face. So, Matt Gaetz. Pete Hegseth didn't get as much backlash as Matt Gaetz got, but a lot of women didn't want to see Pete Hegseth in Trump's cabinet. This I do know. But as far as Kash Patel and the American people, you really didn't hear a lot of backlash. But I mean, the Senate went absolutely nuts on this guy.
Former Senate Minority and Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, that he was really drawing the ire of some of these Republican senators in his own conference that he led for about 20 years, saying that McConnell was not getting on board, that McConnell had always preached a sense of unity within the conference itself, and yet during some of these confirmation votes, he was bucking the trend. He voted against RFK Jr., he voted against Tulsi Gabbard, and he voted against Pete Hegseth, though in this case, he just voted for Kash Patel. So I think that is just some of the electoral considerations at play, which I think are really interesting. But let's get back to Patel himself. How might he lead the FBI? And like we were reporting, and I don't think this is news to many watching, that Kash Patel is a deep, deep critic of the institution and of the Bureau itself. President Trump is deeply distrustful of the FBI and deeply distrustful of the Bureau itself. And presumably, maybe that is why they came together, why Trump tapped Kash Patel to lead the FBI going forward, and he is now going to be Senate confirmed to do just that.
I think Andrew Kraft is making a great point. But to his point, Kash Patel is extremely critical of the FBI, and so is President Donald Trump. Well, it makes sense, right? Like Kash Patel, he has a pretty good upstanding reputation as far as like representing his government. Absolutely nothing in his background. Anything that I've seen these people either mention in his Senate hearing or try to bring up against him, it's all failed. So you can tell they were going off of hearsay, hoping that something would stick, and it didn't stick. As far as Donald Trump, would you trust the FBI if you got shot in your ear, knowing how close the shooter was, knowing that there were officials that saw this person and they totally ignored him? So I think Donald Trump and Kash Patel have a great reason to not trust the FBI. After I saw the Senate hearing shortly after the attempted assassination, the FBI director, I mean, without watching that much of it, I was like, dude, she was either in on it or she knows something and she's not saying anything.
See the vote tally there, 51 yeas, 49 nays. So a very close vote along partisan lines with some Republicans' defections, yes. But now Patel will be tasked with leading an agency he has been deeply critical of, especially when it comes to not only the raid at Mar-a-Lago that the FBI conducted against President Trump's residence there in South Florida in August of 2022, but also some of the Jack Smith prosecutions, like the classified documents probe and like the January 6th probe. Kash Patel was deeply critical of those.
We can see him right here getting sworn in, and Andrew Kraft is saying from the January 6th probe, and like Kash Patel was deeply critical of these. So what would you do if you were Kash Patel and you were now put in charge to run an organization you were deeply critical of? You would revamp it. That's exactly what he's going to do to it. He's going to revamp the FBI. I think in the greatest way possible. I think Kash Patel is a no-nonsense kind of guy. He's not going to stand for like corruption or people having FBI agents in their pocket, or there's some type of government official that can call on an FBI agent that can just harass an American citizen just at their wishing of them to do it. So I don't think that things like that are going to happen at the FBI with Kash Patel there, and that's something that I am pretty excited about.
Those are no longer operative now that President Trump is President Trump. And so there were reports in the early days last month, once Trump was sworn in, of mass resignations, of a deep purge there at the FBI for anyone at the FBI who worked on those two subsequent probes brought by Jack Smith. So we'll have to see how Kash Patel handles that, how he goes about, in his words, reforming the agency within. I don't have to tell viewers, of course, how deeply involved the FBI was as well in the Russian collusion probe that was spearheaded by the special counsel Robert Mueller for more than 2 years. And so that is where all of that bad blood that Trump feels about the FBI, that is where it stems from. And so Kash Patel had a lot of acolytes, a lot of supporters and allies within the president's inner circle, J.D. Vance as well, also Donald Trump.
So he talks about where it stems from. It's not like this came from President Trump's imagination, or Kash Patel is just extremely critical of this organization for no reason. There's a point in which this all started.
Within, I don't have to tell viewers, of course, how deeply involved the FBI was as well, who worked on those two subsequent probes brought by Jack Smith. So we'll have to see how Kash Patel handles that, how he goes about, in his words, reforming the agency within. I don't have to tell viewers, of course, how deeply involved the FBI was as well in the Russian collusion probe that was spearheaded by the special counsel Robert Mueller for more than 2 years. And so that is where all of that bad blood that Trump feels about the FBI, that is where it stems from. And so Kash Patel had a lot of acolytes, a lot of supporters and allies within the president's inner circle, J.D. Vance as well, also Donald Trump Jr., but also Chuck Grassley, Mike, who has been a key proponent of trying to expose some of this alleged corruption and political taint within the FBI. Of course, Chuck Grassley is the oldest member, right?
And as far as corruption, the thing that he mentioned with Robert Mueller, when Trump found out all of the FBI's dealings with Russia, that's really where a lot of like the bad blood started to happen. Everything else you could say was pretty much the icing on the cake.
Now in the Senate, he's 91 years old, and he was, I believe, chairman and ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which that is where Patel had to come before to have this confirmation hearing. And Grassley has been a key ally and proponent of his, ever since he was tapped by President Trump. This was an unusual and peculiar pick to those looking outside in, but for those in Trump's orbit and Trump's world, this made a lot of sense. And now it just remains to be seen when he will be sworn in and what he will do and what his message will be to the thousands of employees at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Of course, Mike, this is a 10-year term, so it doesn't just last one presidential administration. It could last 2 or 2.5. And so Patel, if everything goes right and well, will be there for a decade.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I am hoping it is not a term as the president serves. I'm not sure how many of you guys knew that, but the FBI director is actually a 10-year term. So that would leave Patel there through 2 presidencies and the third one, half of it. And I'm looking forward to that. I really am looking forward to that. I just think it's so interesting because the reform from within, I'm just thinking about his first day on the job. And it's like, now the people who work for the FBI, like, they know Kash Patel is coming. So I know his first day at work, or like as soon as they see him come in the building, everybody's gonna do the whole like, look away and cover their face type of thing, because he's serious about the reform from within. And that's why he starts like that. He knows that there are people within the FBI currently who have not been fired or laid off or their job taken away, that they are corrupt people, that they are people that they are in the pocket of a politician or in the pocket of another government official. And those are the people I believe he's going to go in and work on right away.
There, and I think a lot of people wondering too, Andrew, obviously Kash Patel, huge supporter of President Trump. How is that really separation now going to take place? Will it take place where now Kash Patel, once he is sworn in, will have a whole bureau to run, and really, of course, you're the public face of the FBI. How do you have that separation of saying, okay, I am a supporter, but I will not go all down the line for everything that President Trump would want? How does one do that? And could it be done for Kash Patel?
So when Mike Patch says, I won't go all down the line for what President Trump wants, I think it depends on what he wants. Really what he wants to say is that what is Kash Patel going to do now that he's the face / head of the FBI, and he's also a big supporter of Trump? What happens when the rubber meets the road and there's a fork in the road? Is Kash Patel going to decide to uphold his duties as the director of the FBI, or is he going to allow himself to be manipulated or controlled by President Trump? That's the question he really wants to ask, because that's the question that every single person that Donald Trump has picked for his cabinet, the Senate has been able to ask. Like, they've asked that question, like, so if the president asks you to do something unlawful, are you going to be able to push back, or are you willing to push back? Because this is what they pushed in all the Senate hearings. If Donald Trump asked you to do something unlawful, right? And it's so ridiculous, because I love the way Kash handled himself, because every time he got asked this question, he would refute back, and he would say, I don't think the president is going to ask me to do anything unlawful, but if he did, I would not answer to it. I would uphold my duties as a director of the FBI. So Kash Patel handled himself really well at his Senate hearings.
Well, I mean, that's going to be the question at hand. I mean, that was what stemmed from so much of the criticism coming from Democratic senators, that Kash Patel would essentially just be a mouthpiece and a steward to affect President Trump's retribution or revenge on those at the FBI for what he perceived they did to him as candidate Trump as well in 2022, 2023, and the like. And so that is really a question that hits the nail on the head. How independent will Kash Patel be from the executive branch, from the Trump administration? This was also a question as well when Matt Gaetz was tapped as Attorney General. We all know how that went. It's also still a question, though, for the Department of Justice, now Attorney General Pam Bondi. How separate can they keep the function of their office without, say, weaponizing the Justice Department or weaponizing the FBI? That is a critical concern of many of these Senate Democrats who on a party line vote, I believe almost all of them voted against Kash Patel. And so it just remains to be seen. Obviously, we've been...
Yeah, you know why all of the Democrats voted against Kash Patel? Because of the things that Doge is uncovering. Because of the things that the Democrats have been doing in the government over the years. It's because Kash Patel is going to be able to fish out who the true crooks are. He has subscribed to and also said things similar to Vivek pertaining to the deep state. Like, these young guys, like, they're not dumb. They're hip to a lot of the things that they've seen going on, even though no one is saying it. It's like smokescreen, right? So they're paying attention to what's really happening under the table, even though on top of the table, the dinner's set perfectly. And that's the reason why the Democrats don't want Kash Patel to go into the FBI. It's not because he's incompetent or he's unqualified. He's actually none of those things. And he has a pretty upstanding record. But he's going to go in there and he's going to clean house. And there's a lot of crooked things that people just, sometimes they don't want to see it because they subscribe to a certain political party. But all these things have come out about Nancy Pelosi and her husband, Joe Biden and his family, and more are going to continue to come out as he's exited office. Things about Hunter Biden, things about other longstanding Democrats. So these are the reasons why they don't want Kash in there. It's not because he's actually unqualified.
been following everything that's been happening, Mike, in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, with Mayor Eric Adams pending dismissal of his indictment. He appeared before a federal judge just yesterday. And that was somewhat of an example of some of the alleged political interference coming from the now new Trump DOJ into some of these U.S. attorneys' offices, trickling down nationwide. And so it remains to be seen how independent Kash Patel is going to want to be in a position and in a post that is largely kept independent from the executive branch. Now, there are some Trump supporters and Trump allies alike who don't agree with that assessment, who say the FBI director is under the executive branch, the attorney general is under the executive branch, and they work for the president. Yet some of the critics of that assertion would be, well, the attorney general is not the president's lawyer, personal lawyer, and the FBI director is not, say, the president's personal security detail, bodyguard, policeman, so to speak.
Yeah. No, and the FBI director is not, and the Attorney General is not the president's personal lawyer. Nonetheless, they work with the president. So when you have people constantly asking these questions of how loyal is Kash Patel going to be to President Trump versus him being the FBI director, I think it's an asinine question. I think Kash Patel is the kind of guy that he's going to be very loyal to his position in the FBI. But it's a question that people are asking to make people, to pit people against each other. It's a divisive question because the gentleman just said it. Andrew Kraft just mentioned it. The Attorney General and the FBI Director are part of the executive branch. So they already work with the president, right? So when people are asking the question, what does this relationship look like with Kash Patel now becoming the FBI director? It looks like what historically it's looked like. It looks like what it would always look like. The FBI director is not making no contact with the president. The FBI director is never not talking to the president. They're in briefings together. They're on the phone together. National security is a big deal. So, you know, when they're asking this question, we have to make sure that we're aware that it's actually a very divisive question. It's not a good question at all.
All great points there, Andrew. And I think before we wrap up here, I think it needs to be also talked about and said that this second term for President Trump and his administration feels a lot different than it did the first time around. It seems this time he's getting sweeping executive orders, and the first go around, it seemed like there was a lot of blockades in the way for President Trump in the forms of Russian interference theories and others that really came to the administration hand in foot really now, but now much different. How's that to say the rest of the way is going to go here for the administration now that it looks like everybody that President Trump has picked is getting Senate confirmed?
Well, yeah, we're just 30 days into this, I've been calling it Trump 2.0. And I think some of the supporting evidence to your point, Mike, is that next Wednesday, Fox Business correspondent Edward Lawrence reported that President Trump is going to be holding his first cabinet meeting. And so that just goes to show you the rapidity with which these individuals were picked by the transition and confirmed in, yes, a Republican-led Senate. So if you're confirming, or if rather you're comparing the Trump transition 1.0 to the Trump transition 2.0, Mike, these names were ready to go. They had been vetted and they had been meeting with senators. It was much different. Transition 1.0 to the Trump transition 2.0, Mike, the cabinet meeting.
I'm gonna read these out loud for you guys. So this is Mark Wayne Mullen. At Senator Mullen, it says, breaking news, Kash Patel has been confirmed as FBI director.
And so that just goes to show you the rapidity with which these individuals were picked by the transition and confirmed in, yes, a Republican-led Senate.
Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, at Speaker Johnson, it says, congratulations to Kash Patel on being confirmed as director of the FBI. Kash will end the radical weaponization of the agency and ensure it is working to protect Americans, not target them. So this is part of, like what Speaker Mike Johnson is saying, he's a supporter of Kash Patel. This is part of the reason why a lot of Republicans were supportive of him and they were happy, because really they've been saying that, oh, President Trump, when he gets back in office, he's going to use the FBI and all of these agencies against like American people. meaning the Democrats. That's really what they were saying. He shouldn't be allowed to use the FBI and agencies like that towards American government officials. Yet, they did it to President Trump. As a matter of fact, they threw everything at him, every type of subpoena and summons to court and trumped up charge, pun intended, but anything you could think about, they threw at him to make sure he wouldn't win the election, and he won. And now everybody is basically, I don't want to say the statement, but everybody is basically, how do I want to say it since I don't want to say my right statement, since I don't want to curse. But it's the term pooping bricks. Let's just say it like that. That's what everybody on the left side is doing right now. They're really nervous. They're anxious about it because it's not President Trump who's been weaponizing the government. It's the Democrats. It's a lot of the lefts. It's a lot of the leftists. So Kash Patel winning is a big W for the Republicans. It's a big W for a lot of people because a lot of corruption is going to leave. But if you are in support of the Democrats, then this might have been confusing to you as to why they pushed so hard against Kash Patel, but this is the exact reason why. Because weaponization of the agency is not something that Kash Patel is going to stand for.
So if you're confirming, or if rather you're comparing the Trump transition 1.0 to the Trump transition 2.0, Mike, these names were ready to go. They had been vetted and they had been meeting with senators. It was much...
This is from Representative James Comer. He says, news confirmed, Kash Patel is the right man to lead the FBI. I look forward to working with him to end the weaponization of federal law enforcement and hold the deep state accountable. So, deep state, again, mentioned again, Representative James Comer, right? Kash Patel has said and subscribed to things of the deep state. Vivek Ramaswamy, again, another Republican supporter and a reporter of President Trump's cabinet, and also was hired to work alongside Elon Musk at Doge, but decided to retire, has also talked about the deep state. So these are things that, like, when the Democrats hear those two words put together, deep state, they're like, oh my God, there's people who actually know that this is a real thing and it's not fake. And they will try to discredit, they will try to dismantle, they will say, oh, we've never heard of anything called a deep state. We don't know what it is. It is reasons like this why people are afraid that Kash Patel just actually won this cabinet position.
Different from the first go-around when it was, frankly, extremely chaotic. A lot of the people that Trump tapped to lead these cabinet agencies he did not know personally, and that is really what stemmed into a lot of the problems here. He couldn't feel...
This says, congratulations, Kash Patel. Congressman William Timothy confirmed. Congratulations to Kash Patel on his nomination to serve as FBI director. Kash's proven dedication to public service and national security is a big win for America. I am looking forward to seeing the FBI restored to its core mission under his leadership. So a lot of support,
like he could trust them. But now this is a whole different ballgame, and these people were picked very early on in the transition, and it helps with a Republican-led Senate and a Republican House. If you have all the levers of government, that also works in your favor, and that was one of the other questions from the Senate side. What were they going to give? Were they going to give president who just won the Electoral College and the popular vote everything he wanted with regard to his cabinet? And so I just thought that was really interesting here. Yes, there are more confirmations coming up, and we're going to cover them all here on Live Now. But it just goes to show you, with 30 days into this new administration, we got the reporting that just next week he's going to hold a full cabinet meeting of all these cabinet positions that have already been confirmed. So much faster, much more streamlined in this Trump 2.0 with regard to who he is filling out these federal agencies with.
Yeah, so very true. Andrew?
And I'm going to pretty much stop right there, guys, for that. So I don't want to react to the whole entire thing. We went a good ways in. But, to one point, to Andrew Kraft calling it Trump 2.0, he's actually not the first person to call it that. There have been a couple of people that have named it this, mainly because the rate at which Donald Trump is moving during his second term. It's funny because if you go back and you watch Donald Trump's episode on Joe Rogan that he did, it was probably 3 months ago now at this point. It has, last time I checked, I think it had 22 million. It's probably past that now. But Trump talked to Joe Rogan about this, and Joe Rogan was asking him, like, when you first made it to the White House and you got there, like, did you know what to do? Like, did you know what you wanted to do? And Trump was like, no, like, I had no idea what I wanted to do or what to do. He's like, I never done the job before. I didn't know my way around. And he said there were people who were being helpful in the sense where they were advising him on who he should appoint to the cabinet. So there were people who were saying, oh, this guy's a good pick, and like this person would be a great pick. And Trump was saying, I would go with these people that they would tell me, and then a couple of weeks in, I'd be like, oh, this is not a good relationship, or this isn't going to work out. So he's learned a lot from his first term, and now since his first term, he's like, he's gonna hit the ground running. He said that during his Joe Rogan podcast, episode. He's like, this time around, I have a lot more familiarity. He knew like what he wanted to sign, when he wanted to sign it, how fast he needed to sign it. So the reason why they're calling it 2.0 is because he's moving, and President Trump is moving like this on purpose. So speaking of our President Donald Trump, Black History Month is the month of February. A whole bunch of DEI policies and DEI in general has been kicked from the federal government. So therein lies the question, why did President Trump have a gala/reception at the White House today in honor of Black History Month? I thought it was interesting because in the comments, you immediately saw at least one or two people I caught saying, I thought President Trump kicked DEI. I guess he went back on it. No, he didn't go back on it. He's being respectful of Black History Month. And I know it's hard for people, listen, Black people, it's hard for people that look like me to understand this because they just hated Trump without doing any research, without understanding anything about the man, just going off of hearsay and the Democrats and things that they've heard. And listen to me. What reason would the man have to celebrate anything in Black History Month if he's the one who kicked the freaking policy, right? So I chimed in on the conversation and I said, well, in my humble opinion, I think he's doing it because he just wants to do it, right? Like there's a couple of things he said in this speech that you can't tell me someone wrote it for him, and you can't tell me that he's saying it because he wants to be more popular amongst Black people. Trump has he has more than enough white support. Like, yes, when he says things like, I owe a lot of my winning to the Black vote, I think he's also doing that as a symbol of gratitude. Like, he's just saying thank you like any normal person would. The problem is that some Black people and some hard left-leaning liberals can't see Trump as a normal freaking person. So, that's the reason why it was so important for me to at least cover a couple minutes of this, hear him talk a little bit. Tiger Woods showed up. Let's jump right in.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow. This is some crowd. How are you?
Let me make sure you guys can hear.
Leo. This is some crowd. These are the best people, Tiger. And we have Adam Scott here also, winner of the Masters, one of the greatest golfers in the world. I've always tried to swing just like Adam. It never worked out that way. And Tiger, we know, and I just want to thank Adam and Tiger and the Commissioner of Golf. Jay, thank you very much for being here. Jay Monahan, head of the PGA, and we had some interesting discussions. But let me ask you, is there anybody like our Tiger? How are you? He's so great. Would you want to just say a couple of words, Tiger? He doesn't. He's much more comfortable.
It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here with you, Mr. President, and to be on the road here with all of you. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Tiger. And I want to thank all of you very much for being here. Welcome to the White House, and we proudly celebrate Black History Month. How are you, darling? Today we pay tribute to the generations of Black legends, champions, warriors, and patriots who helped drive our country forward to greatness. And you really are great people. What a great, nice group of I have some people in front of me every once in a while with all the problems that are caused all over the world. They're not nice. They're not nice. And but we're making them nice. I can tell you that, and we're making them nice rapidly.
We're making them nice.
So we're pleased to be joined in this really beautiful afternoon at the White House by hundreds of incredible members of the African American community. Many of whom are making history themselves, including one of the greatest athletes of all time, who you just said hello, the man who matched Sam Snead's #1 record for the most PGA Tour wins ever, and a man who has 15 majors, and he's got a long way to go too. I was with him a week ago, we played. Adam, I think he's got some left, doesn't he, huh? He's got a couple of majors left, maybe more than that. But Tiger Woods, he's an incredible guy, an incredible athlete, incredible player. Thank you for being with us, Tiger. Thank you very much. And he got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which he proudly wore today. And it's we have Senator Tim Scott here. What do you think, Tim? You never got the Presidential Medal. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. You better believe it.
Scott said maybe
And
someday.
also, Adam, thank you very much. Adam is, as Tiger will tell you, one of the greatest players and one of the great modern players. And he had 32 wins worldwide and winning the Masters also. And he's something very special and a great representative of golfers and athletes. Thank you very much, Adam. Even though he doesn't quite come from our country, he sort of does, right? He's here a lot. He comes from another nice place like Australia, right? And they've been very good, very, very good to us. Jay, thank you very much.
Shout out
Appreciate
Australia.
it very much. We also have the head of Pfizer here, so I want to thank him. One of the great people, one of the great businessmen. Thank you, Albert. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bro, what? Like, that's crazy. I didn't watch this whole thing. So President Trump literally says, like, we have what did he say, the CEO or the director of Pfizer there, and like the whole room started booing. I don't think President Trump was doing that for them to boo, but the whole room started booing. That's crazy. I would not want to be that guy.
Thank you very much. I want to congratulate our newly sworn in Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Scott Turner. Come on, I gotta say hello. Come on up here, Scott. I had Tim Scott pushing him so hard, you have no idea, I had no choice. Is that right, Tim? No, Scott is, I've known him a long time, and Scott's a real champion. Say a couple of words, Scott.
Well, hello, everyone. Is everybody happy to be here together? Is everybody happy to be here together? Amen. Well, first of all, I want to thank President Trump for his confidence and appointing me to this position. I consider it a great honor
put your phone
and a
down.
great blessing.
I can't see.
And I thank God for this, and I'm real.
Listen, I don't even know why I have to say this out loud, but Scott Turner is way better than Hakeem Jeffries. I don't know, Democrats, y'all don't know who this guy is right here? Try to recruit him. If you try to recruit somebody like him, y'all might actually do something in the election. But I'm telling you right now, don't put Hakeem Jeffries up there, because there ain't nobody gonna vote for him.
Humbled by it, and you can guarantee that every day that I'm gonna lay it down for the people of America. As Senator Tim Scott, thank you for your leadership. I really appreciate you, and for all of those who have gone before us, and those of you who have such a great voice today, keep on speaking, keep on preaching, for not just Black America, but for all America. So we appreciate you, and my sister Brooke Rollins, and all of those here. Mr. President, we look forward to working with you, sir, and carrying out this great agenda. We pray for you every day. God bless you, and thank you. God bless America, and thank you for President Trump. Thanks,
And I see we have a newly, I think you just got in, right? They just confirmed you, and you did it very nicely. Brooke Rollins, she's the Secretary of Agriculture. It's a big deal. That's great, Brooke. That was a good vote you had too, huh? She went through very easily, a little easier than some of our people, but they were all approved, every one of them. And today we just had Kash Patel approved, which is great.
Kash Patel right there.
So, Brooke, congratulations. Secretary of Agriculture, that's big stuff, right? That's big. So you're going to do fantastically. And congratulations also to a really good friend of mine. He endorsed me early, and he was one of the best surrogates you could have. The surrogate is when you walk around and go on television shows, and they go try and beat you up, but he beat them up. They didn't have a chance against Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. And he's now the longest serving black United States senator in the history of our country. I don't know. That's pretty good.
Longest serving. So Tim Scott is now the longest serving black senator in our country. So kudos to Tim Scott for that. Look, and people be calling Tim Scott Uncle Tom. Listen to me. Listen to me. You know how disrespectful it is to call a black person that? You know how disrespectful it is to call a black person that? The funny thing is that most of the time when I have seen a black person be called that, it's actually not from a white person. It's from another black person. You know how annoying even that part is? That's even more annoying. Stop being disrespectful, y'all. Black people, stop being disrespectful to one another. That man, Tim Scott, he worked for where he got to. He worked for where he got to. You got to give credit where credit's due.
He's going to be around for a long time, right? He just got married. Congratulations on that, too. Beautiful, beautiful wife. Thanks as well to Congressman John James. Where's John James? Is he here? Hi, John. How are you? It's a star, young star. I knew that 5 years ago, right, John? I sort of predicted it. And I'm really proud to say that we now have more black Republicans serving in the U.S. House than at any time since 1870.
See, since 1870. And this, you know, this is actually a point that I've brought up previously, talking to some of my constituents, especially the ones that look like me. And I have said things to them that, do you know in the late 1800s that at that point in time, there were the most black people serving in the United States government, and they were all Republican at that time? This is where I think that we need to be better with our history. We need to do more research. We need to learn more. We need to ask more questions. If we don't understand something about politics, government, policy, legislation, we need to be humble enough to ask questions. There are plenty of people in America that are black and are not black that will answer questions for you when it comes to government, policy, legislation. This is where I have sat with people that look like me, constituents that look like me, because I have them that don't, and I've been in groups of people and I've had to say things like, you don't understand government, like you don't understand policy, because I get what you understand about the civil rights movement and the Democratic Party, but if you go back into the late 1800s, where there were at that time some of the most black people serving in government, they were all Republicans. They were all Republicans. Like, this is free history. This is free knowledge that can be looked up. Yet, when I've been in a group of people that look like me and I've said that comment, I always get looked at like I have three heads. Like, literally, I've had people look at me like I'm lying to them. Like, that was a piece of history that I just made up.
That's a long time, 1870. So thank you very much. And Scott, you're going to be fantastic. I'll tell you, you're going to do a great job. As you know, the Americans are going to be celebrating something very important coming up, our 250th anniversary, our nation's founding. And when we do, we're going to look forward to honoring the contributions of countless black Americans who fought to win and protect and expand American freedom from the very, very beginning. And some of my good friends are here today, and I appreciate you being. I'm not going to call out your names because Tiger will get very bored. He'll say, this is a little boring. This is a little boring if we do that, but I want to thank you all for being here. You are our friends, and we appreciate this. And you, McGee, you are my friend. The last administration tried to reduce all of American history to a single year, 1619, but under our administration, we honor the indispensable role black Americans have always played in the immortal cause of another date, 1776. We like 1776. In the very first skirmish of the Revolutionary War at Lexington Green, an enslaved black man named Prince Estabrook. You know Prince Estabrook? Yeah. Answered history's call and fought as the Minutemen alongside the other patriots of the very small Massachusetts town. Couldn't protect itself, but they did a good job. Prince was wounded in the early morning battle, becoming not only the first African-American soldier to fight in the Revolution, but among the very first Americans to spill their blood. One of the first in the nation to spill blood in that very, very tough time. Soon Estabrook joined the Continental Army and ultimately won his own freedom along with that of his fellow Americans. His legacy will endure, and we're very proud to honor him today. It's a very important day in our country, and we honor him. First person to spill blood happened to be Tim Estabrook. Today I'm pleased to announce that we will be including the statue of Prince Estabrook in our new National Garden of American Heroes. We're going to be doing a Garden of American Heroes, and now that I think of it, I
want to see something, chat. Give me a minute. Wow, that's kind of crazy. So Prince Estabrook, President Trump was just talking about him as one of the first people to spill blood, and they're actually gonna put his statue. Let me see where he said again.
Continental Army and ultimately won his own freedom along with that of his fellow Americans. His legacy will endure, and we're very proud to honor him today. It's a very important day in our country, and we honor him. First person to spill blood happened to be Tim Estabrook. Today I'm pleased to announce that we will be including the statue of Prince Estabrook in our new National Garden of American Heroes. We're going to be doing
a new National Garden of American Heroes. So that's where they're putting his statue at, Prince Estabrook. That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. And what do you know, Chad? It's a black person. Oh my goodness. And Donald Trump is reading this. Who's paying President Trump? No one's paying President Trump.
Garden of American Heroes, and now that I think of it, I must tell you, sadly, most of them, I guess all of them are not with us any longer. I was going to put Tiger in the garden, but maybe you don't want to be
that. Putting Tiger Woods in the Garden of American Heroes. That's hilarious. But I think in the chat is awesome because Walrad says, celebrating Black American history in a Revolutionary War. Awesome. Yeah, and President Trump is the one reading about it. President Donald Trump right now, this was literally streamed 4 hours ago. So this was not something that was like copied or something that was taken from 4, 5, 6 days ago or even a couple months ago and I lost it. This is today, and this is President Trump in the White House throwing a gala in celebration of Black History Month. And yes, he is celebrating Black American history in the Revolutionary War. He's talking about it. There's no one else there talking about it for him. There's no one else there saying President Trump say this or that. If he is reading notes and people are like, well, why during his rallies he didn't read notes and for Black history? Dude, you guys will find something regardless. Like, you're going to find something. He could be reading notes because he doesn't want to mess up. He could be reading notes because, guess what? I'm a Black person and I know how critical Black people can be. So he could be reading notes for lots of reasons. I don't care why he's reading the notes. I don't always have to read notes like for every single thing that I'm talking about when I'm preaching. Sometimes my eyes are glued to my notes. Other times I'm talking freely to the crowd. So I don't care that sometimes he's looking down and reading notes and sometimes he's, staring up at the crowd. I'm just happy that this is happening. And this is something that President Donald Trump wanted to do on his own in honor of Black History Month. And it's like, yeah, you think The View is going to cover this? Probably not. You think MSNBC, Joy Reid and her friends over there, you think they're going to cover this? Like, guess what? Donald Trump was at the White House yesterday and he was celebrating Black History Month. He threw a gala. You think they're going to cover this? No, they're not going to cover it.
I maybe should wait a little bit, huh? Like about 50, I think I'm gonna wait about 50 years, all right? But Tiger's gonna make it, okay? But I'm a little afraid to tell him yes, because he'd be the only one that's living. I don't know, Tiger. Tiger's rejecting that offer, right? Under the executive order I signed last month, this new beautiful outdoor statue park. It's going to be a statue park. It's going to be unbelievable. We're picking the final sites now. It's between.
So it's going to be a statue park that they're putting up, and then different American heroes are going to go there, but they're going to make sure Prince Esterbrook goes there, which is the first black man to fight in a Revolutionary War, and the first person to spill blood. The first person. I love this comment in the chat because someone said, "Hold up. Didn't he try to take away Black History Month?" And conservative AI bot responds and says, "Black history and DEI are not the same. One is remembering and the other is pity hires, based solely off color and gender. Two very different things." Amen, conservative AI robot. Two very different things. One is about remembering, that would be Black history. One is about pity hires based on color. That would be toxic DEI.
Between various states that want it very badly. We'll honor hundreds of our greatest Americans to ever live, including countless Black Americans, icons. The garden will predominantly feature incredible women like Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, and Coretta Scott King. And I will showcase extraordinary, it will be something very extraordinary. It's going to be producing, we're going to produce some of the most beautiful works of art in the form of a statue from men like Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, Jackie Robinson, what a great athlete that was, Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad Ali, he's not a bad athlete. What do you think, Muhammad? Not too bad. And the late Kobe Bryant. People love Kobe Bryant.
Yo, that's W President Trump. That's crazy if he puts a statue of Kobe Bryant in that garden of American heroes. That would be W Trump. Like, people in the hood that didn't even vote for Trump will then be like, yo, Trump got my respect. He put a statue of Kobe in there.
And we're going to save Tiger Woods for another time. That's all they're like. I'm sorry. During Black History Month, we pay tribute to these heroes and to so many others, but not simply because they're Black heroes, but also because they are truly American heroes who inspire all of us, very much so.
Bro, you gotta love, I love that this happened. I really do. Because, you have some people in the chat that are trying to be funny, and some asking legitimate questions, and then some who I know are white people defending what President Trump is doing, because it's crazy. Because you have people saying things like, "Why no White History Month? Where is White History Month?" And I'm just laughing to myself because I'm like, do you really think in America, where the European population, which, mind you, America didn't start out with the 86% European population. It actually was Native Americans, and then they got offed by Europeans. So that's just a fun fact. But do you really think that a country that has 87% white Caucasian people need a White History Month? I don't think that it does. I don't care if it did, but I mean, like, do you really think that? I just think that that's such a funny comment. Like, sure, so we can give white people White History Month if you want to, but I mean, like, where do we not see white history in America? Can somebody please tell me that? Am I missing something? I mean, I think we see white history in America in a lot of different things. But then you have somebody say, Trump is making the people who are a part of what you would say Black MAGA feel good. I thought that was cute. You know what I mean? Like, Black MAGA is, to Trump, is MAGA black, white, or is it just MAGA? We would have to ask President Trump that, right? We can't go off of like minions that are following him that are also toxic, right? It would just be like a Christian that still has a lot of behavioral work to do and could be a little bit toxic, right? We can't let that one Christian be the sole representation of Jesus. So when we have ignorant people in the chat saying things like, well, when's White History Month? Like, that person is not a representative of Trump. They're just bored and they want to write in the chat.
The theme of this year's celebration is African Americans and labor. And we want to thank all of the black workers, construction workers, and every other worker. They do a job like nobody can do. And we want to just thank them very much for their contribution. Tim, the contribution you've made, Tim, is incredible. Opportunity Zone, so many people, so many. He's the father of Opportunity Zone. I'm just the son, he's the father, because he came into the White House, the Oval Office, with this idea. And it's probably the #1 economic development project ever in our country. And I want to give Senator Tim Scott the credit for it.
Hey,
good job, Tim.
love you, Tim Scott.
Of course, millions of blacks were first brought here in slavery, and they were kept in that evil condition for really generations. But because of the steadfast faith and courage of so many patriots of all colors, we abolished that horrific institution.
So look at the way President Trump said that. Let me run this back. Watch the way he says this.
Zone. I'm just the son, he's the father, because he came into the White House, the Oval Office, with this idea. And it's probably the #1 economic development project ever in our country. And I want to give Senator Tim Scott the credit for it. Good job, Tim. Of course, millions of blacks were first brought here in slavery, and they were kept in that evil condition for really generations. But because...
So President Trump is giving this speech, and for those of you who are like, well, he's reading off of his notes, so this isn't heartfelt. You know, he just looked up there and he said that there's probably something in there, right? Because he said that black people were kept in that horrible condition, and then he said really for generations, right? So whatever was on the paper, it probably didn't say look up and say really generations. This is the stuff that I mean when I'm saying stop looking for stuff. Like, stop looking for petty, stupid stuff just so you can stay angry, just so you can keep having a reason to hate a person, and actually empathize and look at this man like a normal man. Like, he can have people that are following him that are bigots. He can have people that are following him that are racist. Guess what? Jesus has people that are following him that are racist. Do they know him really well? Probably not, because Jesus wasn't racist. But at the same time, we can't take a person who has followers that are toxic or that are racist or that have ill will, you know, things in their mind and say like those people represent President Donald Trump. They actually don't.
Of the steadfast faith and courage of so many patriots of all colors, we abolished that horrific institution, expanded civil rights, and advanced America's destiny as one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all.
So this goes a lot longer than it is. It's actually 57 minutes long. I started around the 33-minute mark because I wanted to get just to where he was talking. President Trump says a lot more great things about this, about Black history in America and really all people, but he does do his best to focus on Black history, and that's what I liked. I actually want you guys to go find this and watch it yourselves. It's on Fox 5 Washington, D.C. It was literally streamed 4 hours ago. Right now, it only has 13,589 views. I'm sure by the end of the weekend it will have more than that. Because you're going to have a lot more critics under here as well as people who are happy. You know, I thought President Trump said a lot of great things here. And honestly, I was proud. I was proud to see this happen. I was proud that it was something that the White House did on its own. And yeah, I was proud of it. So yeah, I know we're going to have our critics. And we're going to have people that are going to be like, oh yeah, look at the dumb black people thinking that President Trump's doing something for them. And it's like, just shut up and keep voting for Democrats. Because I've already been down that road many years. And like I said, it's not like I would never vote for a Democratic representative, but they can't come talking crazy. Like, I don't want to hear you telling me nothing about transgendering books or like what you're about to teach my kid or like no God in school. I don't want to hear none of that stuff. So I was actually pretty proud to see that President Trump did this. It made me very proud and it made me very happy. And I hope that other people who look like me and other black people who did not vote for Donald Trump, and mainly black people who didn't vote at all, I hope that they get a chance to look at this. If you are a person of color and you did not vote at all, or you were vehemently against voting for President Trump, I want you to go find this video. It's literally Fox 5 Washington, D.C. and it says live President Donald Trump speaks at Black History Month reception. This is a reception that the White House did all on their own, and I was very proud of President Trump and the White House for doing this. You know, for whatever reason they did it for, and they wanted it to be public so other Black Americans can see it. I appreciated it. So we're moving on to one of our very last clips, short clip. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but we're just going to take at some of the remarks pertaining to Senator Mitch McConnell's confirmation that he will not run for re-election in 2026. If you are curious as to who Mitch McConnell is, he is one of the longest standing senators in Congress, if not the longest standing one. And he is 83 years old, and he just mentioned not even 3 hours ago that he will not run for re-election next year.
Has been a busy Thursday, and now tonight, one of the most talked about moves in politics came down on a birthday. Mitch McConnell says no more Senate races for him as he turns 83 years old today. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm Doug Proffitt. Mitch McConnell, the longest-serving U.S. Senator, saying he won't be running again in 2026. And we have full coverage for you tonight on the announcement that was expected, but no one knew when it was coming. Kentucky was once a Democratic state. McConnell is credited with turning it Republican. Isaiah Kim Martinez is in Frankfurt right now. And Isaiah, it didn't take long for people to jump into the race. Can you detail this amazing timing of Daniel Cameron's message about his Senate race now?
A lot of people were expecting Senator Mitch McConnell to retire. I guess they just weren't expecting it today or so soon. And one thing that I found interesting is that a lot of citizens are concerned because Kentucky, and I didn't know this, I guess I just didn't go further enough back. I have to go back and see when this was, but a lot of people are like sad about it because, and what I found interesting was it was actually a lot of younger people, millennials, because they were like, you know, we used to be a blue state, like Kentucky used to be a Democratic state, and they accredit a lot of its progression and being Republican to Mitch McConnell. So you got a lot of people nervous about, you know, what this looks like with him stepping down.
Doug, it was almost simultaneous, happening just moments after the tail end of Mitch McConnell's speech. I can tell you, folks in Frankfurt here, some who spoke to Mitch McConnell today say, again, they expected this decision to come at some point, but just not today.
Senator McConnell on occasions has been the most prominent Republican in the nation, therefore the most prominent Republican in the world.
Reaction from Kentucky Republicans to the timing of Mitch McConnell's political earthquake in Washington.
My current term in the Senate will be my last.
From State Senate President Robert Stivers.
For people in the Republican Party, many of them owe much of their success to him.
To State Senator Lindsey Titchener.
Well, Mitch McConnell made what Kentucky is today. We used to be a blue state.
And Kentucky Auditor Allison Ball.
I mean, it's one of those examples of how Kentucky has punched above its weight for a long time.
Democrats weighing in too. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg.
Just look at the University of Louisville, for example, the Parklands. Those projects and those institutions would not be where they were without Senator McConnell's leadership and support.
And on his 83rd birthday, Senator Mitch McConnell announcing he's not running for re-election in 2026, a decision he says he made last year.
And I've been honored to perform my role in confirming judges who understand their role.
Titchener sitting in front of a Donald Trump cutout in her office, listening to some of McConnell's speech before my interview.
One of the biggest legacies that he will leave is what the Supreme Court that we have right now.
Within minutes of McConnell's address, former Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron became the first Republican to announce his bid to fill the seat. Here's Scott Jennings, a close friend of McConnell's and the founder of Run Switch PR.
Daniel starts out as the front runner. I think any credible pollster would tell you that Daniel would be in the lead to begin.
Thanks to Ronald Reagan's determination, the work of strengthening America's hard power was well underway when I arrived in the Senate. But since then, we've allowed that power to atrophy.
While McConnell didn't mention President Donald Trump, their disdain for each other is well documented. Jennings, a Republican commentator from Louisville.
How much do you think the disagreements between him and President Trump weighs into his decision?
Oh, I'm sure it's a factor.
A growing number of Kentucky Republicans are moving away from the establishment. The GOP growing number of Kentucky Republicans documented. Jennings, a Republican commentator from Louisville.
How much do you think the disagreements between him and President Trump weighs into his decision?
Oh, I'm sure it's a factor.
A growing
Yeah, there's no doubt that it's a factor. Motion to invoke cloture on the nomination of Kash Patel of Nevada to be director of the Bureau of Investigation. So this is Cash's his vote. Yay 51, nay 47. I think it's interesting because they're asking Scott Jennings how much of a factor do you think President Trump's and Mitch McConnell's history plays in him not running for re-election, and Scott Jennings says, oh, I'm sure it's a factor. And it definitely is. Not to mention, I said this earlier in the live, President Trump takes the presidency, and Mitch McConnell and President Trump have a long-standing, let's just say, disdain for one another. On top of that, Mitch McConnell has rejected almost every one of his cabinet picks, right? He went nay for Tulsi Gabbard, nay for RFK Jr., nay for Pete Hegseth, but he did vote yes for Kash Patel. So I'm just thinking that's because he's, the corruption that he sees. You remember, Kentucky used to be blue. They attribute the Republican side of it now to Mitch McConnell. So I think Mitch McConnell saw that Kash Patel was a good pick, and he's on his way out. So I don't think he cares. I think he purposely voted against those other cabinet picks because he didn't want to vote for them. I think he wanted to vote for Kash, and then because of his long-standing, strenuous relationship with President Trump, he was like, "Yeah, I'm out."
A number of Kentucky Republicans are moving away from the establishment. The GOP McConnell built in Kentucky from the ground up.
I would say we are moving in a different direction. And I think what President Trump is doing is representative of what the people want.
But does this show a shift toward more of a hard line effort, at least in the Kentucky GOP, sort of being the future?
I don't know that to be true.
And as far as other contenders to fill McConnell's seat,
I hope that we have people who are fresh to politics, maybe not a part of the political machine.
If President Trump jumps into this, it could make a big difference.
Republican contenders, we also have Congressman Andy Barr of Lexington and businessman Nate Morris, both of whom came very close to announcing it today, saying they're considering, one saying they're anti-McConnell, but didn't quite take that leap just yet. As far as Democrats, State Representative Pamela Stevenson says she will run for the seat. Governor Andy Beshear says no. Republican contenders, we also have Congressman Andy Barr,
part of the political machine.
If President Trump...
I like that last statement that she said when she says the last this lady right here, I forgot her name, but she's right here. Can I find her? She's right here. She makes a great point when she says that she hopes that the next person that they decide to choose is a person that is newer to politics and not really part of the political machine. And I would say that I think that that's a good choice. You don't want somebody who they're already, let's say, drinking the Kool-Aid, right? So her point to having someone who's newer at politics, this person will come in the door and they wouldn't be able to be easily manipulated. They wouldn't be able to be easily swayed. I don't think that it has to be an older person. Mitch McConnell's 83 years old, so there's a good chance that his replacement is not going to be even 60 or 50. It's a possibility they may be 50, but they're probably not going to be an older person. I'm thinking it's going to be someone younger. And hopefully someone who hasn't been drenched in the politics, right? Drinking the Kool-Aid, swimming, drowning in the Kool-Aid. And this person can come with fresh ideas, not easily manipulated, not afraid to speak up. I like a lot of what we're seeing from our VP, JD Vance. Shout out to the millennial vice president, right? JD says what's on his mind. He's gonna tell you what's on his mind. All right, so here we are, guys, at the last part of the live, where I'll leave you guys with one Christian commentary / clip from our trusty friend Cliff Buell, and he today is talking about, are you headed to heaven or hell? Who did Jesus die for? Right? So that is a question that I have been asked plenty of times when I was a new some people will say baby Christian, and I would get asked that question. It would literally stump me. And the only reason why it would stump me was because I had prejudices, right? I might say, sure, Jesus died for people, but Jesus didn't die for a rapist, You know what I mean? Yeah. So you grow in your relationship with Jesus. You get some knowledge. God gives you some revelation, and you be like, oh, that was a dumb way to answer that, right? So I've come past all of that, and because I want to be obedient to the Lord, at the end of every live stream, we're gonna end with a clip from our trusted friend Cliff, and today he's talking about who did Jesus die for. Let's watch.
Who did Jesus die for? Check it out.
He said, if I confess my sins, he's rightful and justly to forgive me of all unwickedness. If I confess my sins, he'll forgive me, and I have everlasting life. Jesus died for me, for a man who pistol with people. Jesus died for me, who stole purses from old ladies. Jesus died for a man who was doped up, hallucinating, talking to walls. Jesus died for a man who wanted to kill his own mama. I mean, I was that scared. I wanted to kill her. Jesus died for a man who gained fame off harassing people and stealing stuff. Jesus died for a man who was addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, who was abusing women. He died for that type of person. But just hearing that, you see, I can say that so much confidently now because I have a relationship with God.
Teach.
But then, hearing that, man, it broke my heart.
Jesus died for every single one of us. There is no sin you've done that grace does not cover. Share this with somebody who needs to see it.
Ooh.
Yeah, man, share this with somebody who needs to see it, guys, especially that last clip. There's no sin that anyone's committed that can't be covered. It's crazy because that guy who's talking, his old rap name is actually Boonk Gang. So BOONKGANG. But his real name is John Gabbana. And I've been following Boonk for a while, like way before like his conversion to Christ. Like, man, I remember him like just posting videos and he was doing the craziest stuff. You know, I remember one time he had got like punched in the mouth by somebody and he posted the video and his mouth was like all bloody. Like he was a real reckless dude. And like his conversion to Christ, I watched it. It was very radical. You know, I've seen him online break down in tears. I've seen him online come on and use his platform to spread the gospel. I've seen him go out in the street and talk to people in a public square, you know, give things away that people need and really just change his life. I mean, like, this is the funny thing. One of the pastors that I've followed for years, I really look up to this pastor. Shout out to Pastor Matt Brown out in Riverside, California. He is actually the lead pastor of Sandals Church. And he said it great. You know, it was early on when I was probably newly to following Christ as far as relationally. And he said, you know, if you got hit by a truck, that would be noticeable, right? And he's being a little facetious, but he's saying if a person were to live after that. If someone got hit by a truck, that would be noticeable. So if you encounter Jesus, like, that should be noticeable. Like, your life should change. And I remember thinking to myself, being extremely convicted at that moment and saying, like, not necessarily that I have to be perfect, but if I'm doing a lot of the same things I was doing before I ever knew who Jesus was, there's a good chance that maybe I didn't fully encounter him, or my encounter with him wasn't very intimate, possibly not very legitimate. So I challenge that you guys, you know, share this live with someone who you think it will help, because we reacted to a lot of great things today, but most of all, the last clip. This clip at the end of the live is probably one of the things I look forward to most with you guys, because I never know who's watching. I never know who's curious about Jesus. I never know who's on the edge of taking their life or wanting to hurt somebody else. So it's important to me that I get to share the gospel with you guys in some way, shape, or form right now. While this is the trajectory that the channel is on, the Lord has allowed me to share something with you guys at the end of a live. And I'm extremely happy about that. You know, where it saves people, Jesus saves people, and that's what I want to see ultimately. So guys, here we are at the end of the live. It's been fun. It's been real. I always have lots of fun with you guys, but now I gotta go because I have to wake up very early for work, as I always wake up very early. Very early, actually, for me, it's still dark outside, in case you were curious. So guys, with that being said, it's been real. I will see you guys tomorrow around 2:45, 3 o'clock. It's going to be earlier because it's Friday. And guys, what I always say, take care of yourselves, love one another, and be peaceful. Peace.